kinds of talk because the president of El Salvador has offered space for illegal immigrants of any nationality facing deportation in the U.S. to be sent to his country and to his prison system there in exchange for a fee. Now, this comes after some lengthy meetings with Secretary of State Marco Rubio. The two met just yesterday at the president of El Salvador's Lakeside Country House, according to Fox. It looks like a very likely option, for example, for gang members from Central America and other violent criminals who got into the U.S. illegally. There's Rubio as he took the podium just yesterday there in El Salvador. Here's what the Salvadoran president posted. We have offered the USA the opportunity to outsource part of its prison system. We're willing to take in only convicted criminals, including convicted U.S. citizens, into our mega prison in exchange for a fee. The fee would be relatively low for the U.S., but significant for us, making our entire prison system sustainable. So that's why they want to see it happen. Rubio, for his part, says what the Salvadoran president has now agreed to is, he describes it as the most unprecedented, extraordinary migratory agreement anywhere in the world. He says we can send them, and he will put them in his jails, referring to illegal immigrants behind bars in U.S. prisons, violent criminals. He's also offered to do the same for dangerous criminals currently in custody and serving their sentences in the U.S., even though they're U.S. citizens or legal residents. So, as you can imagine, this is creating a lot of talk today. We should point out that, again, according to Fox, the idea of doing it, of sending violent American criminals, U.S. citizens, to a third country like this, would be unlikely, to say the least, because current law does not allow that to happen. It's illegal, based on current U.S. law, to deport U.S. citizens, which this would be considered a deportation. So it's prompting our poll question this morning. And here, let's take a look at what folks are saying about it, because it obviously would be controversial. But again, that's the offer that's on the table from the president of El Salvador. And again, to quote Marco Rubio, he says he has offered to do the same for dangerous criminals currently in custody and serving their time in the U.S., even though they're U.S. citizens or legal residents. So we're starting to get votes on this, Celeste. Good morning, by the way.
Good morning, Ron. Good morning, everyone.
Okay, so should the laws be changed to allow the U.S. to ship violent American criminals out of the country and into Central American prisons? Here is what it's looking like right now. 21% say no because the conditions there could be much worse. 45% say no, it's okay if they're from other countries and doing hard time here in the U.S., but just not for American citizens. Don't change the laws. 6% say maybe it might actually cause some criminals in our country to think twice before they go out and commit a crime.
Yeah,
if
potentially.
If they're thinking, I might not end up in a prison, just down the road,
right,
but 1,000 miles away. And then 27% say yes, but only if there are some guarantees about their treatment.
I think there's going to be questions as to whether or not those other countries would even agree to something like that. It would be a case where maybe if we purchased like Greenland, remember that was like all the talk? And it's like, okay.
I think it's going to be hard enough to get the Greenlanders to agree. Let alone say, oh, we also are going to build some prisons over
Or
there.
maybe we purchase part of this North Pole. I mean, maybe Santa will let us purchase part of that land and build a prison on his property.
Yeah.
But, I think it's going to be challenging to find another country to agree to say, yes, we're okay with you sending your criminals to our country.
Well, I mean, you look at it from the president of El Salvador, and from his standpoint, he's trying to fund it.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, USA, you're starting to maybe run into some resistance from Colombia
right.
or other nations. We willingly accept anybody you want to send our way, including American citizens.
Yes.
So you can see right now, close to 50% of the folks in our poll say that's a no-go. But boy, is it making headlines this morning, and we're going to stay right on top of it for you here on Fox 10 Talks. Now, it turned out that the new Defense Secretary, boy, is he getting some miles in, Celeste. Pete Hegseth just made his first trip to the border in Texas, right? I mean, he was just sworn in. He's just been on the job for a few days. And he made it clear, you're going to hear exactly what he said, standing right there along the border, that the U.S. is going to do its part, but Mexico needs to do its part, including what they're promising right now, to stop the flow of illegal immigrants and fentanyl. Here's what he said.
We haven't had enough air traffic controllers in America for a long time.
Nope.
And so we're working with the FAA.
All right, hold on. We do not have that one just yet. But here is what he said. We want them to secure their own territory, their sovereignty, but we reserve the right, should there not be an ability to police international and violent cartels, to protect our own sovereignty as well. So he says we hope Mexico will step up, and we expect that they will. I mean, to me, Celeste, it seemed like that was quite a breakthrough in the phone call yesterday between Claudia Sheinbaum, their president, and our president, President Trump.
I think it's quite interesting when you take a look at how quickly this has come to pass.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about it, earlier last week, about the idea of tariffs being a negotiation tool. And it looks like, at least with these other North American countries, with Canada and Mexico, it seems to be working in the right direction, at least.
Mm-hmm.
There's now a pause for 30 days on these tariffs while they kind of figure out what works best for both countries.
Mm-hmm.
I think that trade is... I think the EU, an official from the EU, spoke out about it. They said they were going to kind of retaliate as well against the United States.
Yeah, they issued a sort of a don't mess with us statement.
Yes.
I don't think that carries a lot of water with President Trump.
I don't think so either. Do you think remember the last time, the Revolutionary War, when we left?
Well, sure.
Do you remember last time? I mean,
well, I know that was with England too, but now you got the whole European Union and all the countries over there saying, please don't do that.
Yeah.
But I think President Trump thinks, because look, we have the number one economy in the world, that we're operating from a position of strength. By the way, China did slap some new tariffs on us overnight.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just see. We've got...
Were they sneakers? I think for all you sneakerheads out there, the young kids, they love their sneakers.
Yes.
There are a lot of sneakers are made there in China.
I did not see sneakers on the list. I didn't see toothbrushes.
Oh.
You can buy some really cheap toothbrushes from China.
And at the dollar store, Ron.
Yes. But anyway, here's how the market's reacting to all that. Now, hold on. I want to make a quick call here. On ENG 22, we have Marco Rubio speaking right now. Let me see if we can pull that up. We're always looking for live shots. We'll see if we can watch and listen to what the Secretary of State is saying as a result of this trip he's been making into Central America.
That we have questions about that do not further the national interest, and they should be eliminated. And then there are those we need to learn more about. But we have a blanket waiver. It's been out for a week. And anybody who tells you they don't understand it, let me repeat it in very simple words. If it saves lives, if it's emergency life-saving aid, food, medicine, whatever, they have a waiver. I don't know how much clearer we can be. And if they're not applying it, then maybe they're not a very good organization, and maybe it shouldn't be getting money at all.
Sounds like he's answering a question about
It does.
USAID.
Señor Rubio, Good morning, Mr. President, Secretary Rubio. Welcome to Costa Rica. We've learned that this morning, before your meeting with the President, Rodrigo Chavez, you held a meeting with two former ministers of this administration. We'd like to know if you can share a bit about the contents of the meeting with former Minister Laura Fernandez and Minister Batalla, and if you will have additional meetings in our country with a similar interest as the meetings you had this morning. No, these are two people who, up until a few days, they were in government, and during that time, during their time in government, they had been very strong allies of the United States, with whom we shared ideas and values. I know they were out of government. I wasn't going to have another chance to meet with them, and I had the chance to greet them today and thank them for all of their cooperation. They've been very firm voices.
Okay, so that was a rather lengthy question.
It was.
We're dealing with certain officials from that government. But you know, Celeste, here, right here on our valley streets, we had more protests going on. Last night, Sky Fox was overhead. There was a demonstration once again in that same area of West Phoenix, this time around 43rd Avenue in McDowell. But officers did show up, and they blocked the streets because it looked like protesters might be gathering to head toward the I-10 freeway and trying to shut the freeway down. But this is the third night in a row that we've been seeing some of those kind of protest. And then there was also a march in the downtown Phoenix area. I don't know if we have that or not. Let me just punch this button. We'll see. Nope. We don't have that. That's for sure. All right. So we're just going to continue to monitor some of the developments. But there were two different protests, one during the day at the Capitol, and then one last night out in that same area where we've been seeing, including the day before where a police car got stolen for a not quite clear how far that stolen vehicle went. But anyway, all of those things are happening. And let's double check one more time on our poll question and take a look. We're up to close to 50 votes right now. Also, if you have comments, you can join us in the chat box, and we, of course, want to see exactly what you have to say about all of that. We have all these protests that are happening here locally. We have the Defense Secretary down along the border. We have Marco Rubio moving throughout Central America after this landmark deal between the U.S. and El Salvador.
Well, so I'm glad you mentioned this with El Salvador. We'll cover more on this after a quick break and the mystery camera on.
Here it is. Give us your guesses. Well, there is a live look for you at the Mystery Cam. We're getting all kinds of guesses here. We have KDJW with the Rhode Island, Leo Mack with the Kentucky, Brandon Miguel with Mississippi, Angela in Vermont, and Lisa in Tennessee. Oh, also Darche is on saying it looks like Georgia to me again. There are no rules that say you can't go to the same state twice. And it was, Darche, it was Georgia yesterday. Oh, let's get Jim in the house here, too. Jim jumps in. He's one of our loyal viewers out Texas way. But he jumps in with a guess of New Hampshire and Celeste as we take a look at the Mystery Cam here. Let's see. There's no snow on the ground, but there are also no leaves on the trees. So do you have any guesses here?
Okay.
By the way, we have Virginia, Rhode Island, Mississippi, Vermont, Tennessee. They're all kinds of. Yep. I think I'm going to go somewhere like in the Midwest, kind of, maybe southern. I'm going to go Oklahoma.
I'll go Indiana,
Okay.
just for fun. I have no idea.
Here we go.
Kentucky. Did anybody say Kentucky?
No, but you still win because yesterday's guess was Kentucky.
Oh, thank you, Ron.
So
I appreciate
that's
that.
the closest you might come all week. Yesterday's guess.
That's true. That's true. So, anywho, Hopkinsville, is that what it said? Hopkinsville, Kentucky.
Yes, we need to file that one away. Here's one last look at the Mystery Cam. Thanks, you guys, for our guesses. We love it if the Mystery Cam, at the same time as being mysterious, which that one is that like a frozen fountain there or something like that? But is it also beautiful? I don't know if you could call that one beautiful, Celeste, but boy, you could sure call this beautiful. Ready?
Ta-da!
Our sunrise this morning.
It's gorgeous.
So that's way out in Glendale.
Oh, Leo Mack said Kentucky, by the way, Ron.
Oh, Leo.
I'm reading the chat box.
Let's give him his props. So you can see our two great hiking mountains there off to the left, Piestewa and Camelback.
Look how fast those clouds are moving.
I know. I don't think we time-lapsed this.
Really?
I don't think so, but it was so beautiful, and Crystal was talking about it on the show. And so I thought, all right, we are going to be sharing that video with you right here. Speaking of fun videos, Celeste, look.
Yes, Ron.
The sausages are on their way. Look, there are the sausages. Yeah.
Where
you know
are
what
they
this
going?
Means? Well, they're leaving Milwaukee.
How sad.
For those people, but not for us.
Because they're coming here.
Yeah. They're going to be running around the track. You know how they're kind of sausage-looking people, but they're like Randy Johnson and some of our other prominent D-backs that run the ballpark.
Yeah, run the ballpark.
But you got to love the sausages. Packing up, leaving Milwaukee, and heading for spring training right here in the Valley.
Oh, it's going to be perfect weather. This is why people come to Arizona in March.
We had that little test run yesterday up to 86.
Yes, we did.
You know that was our
It was a little too warm for me, Ron.
Yeah, I know, for a lot of people. But, hey, pitchers and catchers report next week, and the temps are going to be back down into the 70s. So I think that's all to the good. Now, for our audience watching this morning, we have a real treat. Would you look at our guest right here? Robert's looking around like, hey.
I feel like I'm in a NASA facility. This place
I know. It's a little bit of an upgrade from the closet.
No complaints about the closet, but this is sweet.
Yeah. Well, they're literally in our old studio. There was room for 2 chairs.
Yes.
Now, let me put your microphone on. Now we have 3 chairs and 3 microphones. And, we're trying to go big time.
It looks great. I'm proud to be here.
Yes. Well, we're great. We're so excited to have you here, Robert. I thought that your segment on our show last hour, we have this national audience, really kind of a worldwide audience. By the way, yesterday we had over 70,000 views.
Wow.
Fantastic.
To our streaming show. The word is getting out about Box 10 Talks. But you have great stories to tell.
Absolutely.
And here, hold up the issue so people can
It's
see what
on
we're talking
newsstands
about.
now, by the way.
Is it on the newsstands? Are there still newsstands?
Yes,
what I meant.
that came up on the
the air.
set. And as a matter of fact, there are still newsstands.
Okay.
All the young kids are going, what is a newsstand?
Exactly.
I actually remember when I was a kid, I had a newspaper collection. I mean, I'm in 6th grade.
Wow.
And we had Estelle Taylor, Mrs. Taylor. She kind of encouraged me to, I think, launch into the news business.
Wow,
and
Miss
and it never
Taylor.
failed. She said, if you take a quarter and tape it to the back of a little piece of cardboard, just cut it out of your favorite cereal box, write to whatever newspaper in the world, they'll send you, I can almost guarantee you. So I started my newspaper collection.
Oh, wow.
And then later in life, I would go to actual newsstands
Yeah.
because they used to carry, like, the New York Times or the Chicago Tribune. And
They cost more than a quarter, probably.
Yeah, no
but,
kidding.
Correct.
Postage alone is like 70 cents.
correct. Maybe I should try it once again nowadays and send that quarter and see what happens.
What was the
Send it to the
farthest?
New York
What was the
Times.
farthest place from which a paper came to you?
I actually got one from Russia.
Wow.
Oh, that's quite a response.
It
from you
is.
guys.
It was in the Cold War,
Ron.
right?
Right?
Yeah, what was
Yeah.
that? I wonder what the cover, what was the big
I was trying
story?
to think what the big story might have been.
Wow. Was it Putin got elected? He's been president for like 50
No,
years.
Celeste, this was back in the 60s. The story was Putin born.
Yeah.
Little baby Putin born.
He's loving you right now, Ron, because he's like feeling young and strong.
Now, I did meet Mikhail Gorbachev when
Oh.
he was in town about 10 years ago. And I brought this book. It was called, Soviet Union Today. And I handed it to him to autograph. And he looked at it and he joked and he said, doesn't look like you've cracked the pages open too often on this book. I mean, he had a sense of humor. He was 90 years old.
Wow.
But anyway, we're not talking Russia today. Most of the time, I sent away to places like New York and Chicago for their newspapers.
Okay.
But I mean, I collected Dallas and I collected Miami. I mean, any place to collect start a newspaper collection. Now you can go online and just read every website.
Coincidentally, this magazine I held up was actually banned in the Soviet Union in the 1960s.
Oh, wow.
It was considered propaganda that the sunsets, you showed the beautiful sunset a minute ago,
Right.
that the sunsets that we showed in the magazine and the other things weren't actually real.
Well, for all our
Wow.
viewers watching us right now in Russia,
Yes.
if the censors yank us off right now,
it's my fault.
if they take us right off the air, now you'll know why.
we'll
Robert,
blame Robert.
yeah,
Blame
no
us,
kidding. All right, let's talk about the issue, though. I want to show some pictures, because you certainly brought plenty of them in to take a look. Tell us what it's all about.
Well, we go back in history once in a while, and including in our February issue to sort of tie in with Statehood Day here in February, and we look for things that people might not understand. We were talking on air earlier about the people know about Tombstone and a lot of the Old West, the Wild West stuff, but Arizona actually had a pretty fascinating riverboat history as well, along the Colorado River in the Yuma area.
Yeah, so the old Quartermaster Depot
Yes,
that's
exactly.
still down there is actually, might surprise people. You can still go to the Territorial Prison for a
Yep.
tour. You
Yes,
can go
you
to the
can.
Quartermaster Depot. I mean, they have really preserved their history, at least in that part of the river.
Yeah, and there were a lot of prominent, notorious criminals that were put in that prison in Yuma. And, Yuma's a beautiful place. I mean, a lot of people use it as a stop on their way to other places. But, there's
Yeah.
some great restaurants in Yuma, and there's a lot of history as well.
I've always thought Yuma is really great because, sure, it gets hot, about as hot as us, sometimes a
Oh,
degree
hotter.
or two hotter.
Yes.
But you're only 2.5 hours to San Diego instead of 5.
and
That's
you're
right.
like 20 minutes from Mexicali.
There
Hello.
you go. Party.
Yeah, no kidding.
Okay, so let's start sharing some more of these images from you here, Robert, and just kind of walk us through.
Yeah, it was a thing that happened for a reason. I mean, it was how goods got shipped up and down the river coming up from the Gulf of California. They moved goods and products, both up and down the river. For your viewers right now, This all predates the dams being built on the Colorado River at Lake Mead and Lake Powell. So the water used to gush through here at a much higher rate. It was more of a not like the Mississippi, but it was a much more substantial river. These images were from the late 1800s, and the river boating went on for about 50 years and kind of ended in the early part of the 1900s.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, let's go to the next one then and see what else you brought in. Look at this old paddle wheeler.
That is really cool.
Yeah, and you said it. It's a paddle wheeler. Sometimes they called them stern wheelers, but that big, gadget on the back of the boat is what made it go. It's the same kind of boat that Mark Twain was riding up and down the Mississippi on, and that smokestack, because everything was steam driven, and it shows the size of that boat. I mean, they were big boats.
In the early days, it was dicey riding on some of these. There are a number of instances, mostly back on the East Coast, where they exploded.
Right.
And you could put your life on the line on these.
Prone to fire for sure. And but it's a part of the history, and it's pretty fascinating to look at.
I don't know how many of your photos we have, but let me keep popping up. There we have another one.
Yeah, that's a lot of hay.
Yeah, hay. Yeah.
Hey.
And that's one of the things that would have moved down the river was hay, either coming from this part of the valley. They actually grew a lot of hay here in the Phoenix area back in the day, and or it might have been coming from somewhere else in California.
All right, let me try one last one. I don't know if we look at that. Okay, what's happening here?
Well, it just shows how sophisticated it was, I think, on some level, that they had these moving bridges to, you see this on the East Coast a lot, Ron. You mentioned back east, and it looks like something you might see up in Duluth or something, but this is just a common scene on the river, and the boats came in all shapes and sizes.
All right, so we're going to keep watching. Celeste, what you had a comment about?
I just wanted to share. I mean, obviously these are great photos, but you all have such a great magazine. You have great articles, and this one right here talks about the photography of Jerry Jacka, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
At the Heard Museum, and I'm just completely in awe of some of these photographers that camp out with PB&J for days, waiting for the perfect moment, for the perfect sky with the cloud cover, and they're able to bring us the beautiful photos that you have in your magazine.
They work so hard. I mean, it's not just walking out with your iPhone and snapping a picture. I mean, they look at weather satellites. They're so smart about weather, and a lot of these places are hard to get to. It's not just waiting for the clouds, but it's having the right vehicle to get back there. And
camp life, van life, it's the whole life.
Yeah, it is. Hey, just seconds left, Robert. Maybe you can join us for this last story right here. Hold on now. We already showed the sausages. There, it's the bear who sat down for a manicure.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, man, look at those claws.
This is at a zoo in Colorado, and he loves it.
I guess so.
Oh, that steam.
Wow.
Great way to wrap up today's show. Celeste?
Shine those puppies.